we are still in the car, headed back to St. Louis from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we were like, you know what, let's do another episode. So that Sariah stays awake and doesn't leave you by yourself while you're driving. So
much appreciated.
Right, so here we are. In today's episode, or in this episode, we're going to be talking about how do you know that God approves of your marriage. Oh, I'm Sariah, by the way.
Lee.
And we are the Scots.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, babe. How do you know that God approves of your marriage?
I think, well, before you even get married, right? I think that God orders the steps of a good man. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And I think that first you need to, like, along the direction of where God is taking you purpose-wise, I think He will make, like, in one of your rest stops, your gas stops on the way to purpose, like there'll be wife will be at a filling station, and you can be like, hold up, like, we're going in the same direction,
right?
Like, we're going in the same direction, our cars are similar, we take the same gas. Like, you'll find out, like, oh my gosh, like, dang, we're going in the same direction. So, I mean, might as well hop in the same car.
Right.
So, I think the first thing before knowing if God approves of your marriage is, did God ordain your purpose? Like, do you know if this is the life and the direction that God has for you?
Right.
Because I'm a firm believer of this. You will find people no matter what direction you go. But there's only one direction that God is taking you. And if you're going in another direction, you're going to pick up somebody else in the car that God didn't want.
Right.
So before we get to if God approves of your marriage, like, you have to know if God approves of the direction of your life. And He will not send you the person that's supposed to be with you if you're going in a different direction. Because not only will that frustrate you for having the right person in the car the wrong way, they're going to remind you, hey, did you stop and ask for directions? Hey, where we at? Hey, where are we going? Not because they're the wrong person, it's just because they're the right person, but they're supposed to be the azimuth to get you to the right direction, right? So you have to think about it from an individual sense before a corporate sense in terms of marriage. Like, am I following the path that God has for me?
Right.
And then you can figure out if the right person is in the car. Yeah. And we can talk about ways to know that person is the right person, but let's figure out where this car is going first.
Yeah. So I think I've told this story before on the podcast, but when we went away to that spring break trip in Chicago, one of the ladies who was there, she prophesied over me, and she was like, you will know who the person is that you're supposed to marry based on what direction they're going in life. Does it line up with the direction you're going in life? Does it line up with the purpose that God has for you? Right. And so I had to look at all the dollars that was in my pocket at the time.
Dollars.
I had to look at all the dollars in my pocket. And I was like, actually, this one, because I knew that I was supposed to be in ministry. Right. I knew I was supposed to be serving in ministry, going to church, whatever, serving, singing. I mean, I knew I was going to be in church. And so I had to look at the dollars that was in my pocket, and I was like, you not even serious about the Lord. You serious about the Lord, but you unstable in all your ways. That's not that's not what I need in my life. And you were the only dollar in my pocket that,
I wasn't in your pocket yet.
You weren't in my pocket yet because we was still just
I was floating around.
Cute. Okay, look, it's like being that money machine. I was still
floating around.
I was still trying to catch you.
I was just floating around.
Right, okay, but you was the only dollar that was floating around that I was like, he's the only one in my life right now that lines up with my purpose. And so it was just like, all right, Lord, so let me go ahead and put these other little dollars away, and let me go ahead and grab this one out the sky.
Yeah, and once you find that person, it's like, okay, they actually align with what I know God has for me. Then you can start evaluating, okay, now does God approve of the marriage, right? So for those who don't know, I'm gonna put you up on game real quick, all right? Real quick in terms of what a marriage is. Marriage is not a relationship, okay? You can have a relationship without a marriage. You can sleep together without a marriage. You can live together without a marriage.
You can have kids.
You can have kids without a marriage. You can do all that you think that you can do. Does not require a marriage. What marriage is a covenant. It is a covenant between you and God that cannot be broken. And then also, marriage is also a business. Okay? It is a business decision between you and your spouse. Okay? If you are not in a position to merge your company with another person, you should not get married. Well, how do I know if I'm not in a position? I'm glad you asked me. If you bring more liability to the relationship than actual assets and benefits, you're not ready to be married. If you come to you know who you want to marry. You know, like, this is the person, right? But you will bring strife to their life right now rather than the actual benefit of being with them. You shouldn't get married yet. You should wait. Why? Because marriage is supposed to be forever. We're not in a rush to be married. We already know who it's going to be. And if y'all are equally yoked, they'll know that it's going to be you too. So we're not floating around all willy-nilly like, oh, well, we casually dating and all the time. No, ain't none of that. You know who it is. So if you know who it is, then figure out, what do I bring to that person's life right now? And if you can actually bring some utility to their life and you count up the cost and it's more positive than negative, then yeah, you might be ready. You might be ready to merge your companies together. But for so many times, people, even the right people, get married too soon. They get married too soon in the wrong season. Therefore, it cannot last because there is either one or both of them is bringing detriment to the marriage. They're not bringing life to the marriage. They're bringing death. They're bringing debt. They're bringing past soul ties that you haven't cut off yet. Like, there's so much things that have to happen business wise before you say, all right, we're ready to add another person. So marriage, just understand, like, it's not a relationship. And you'll lose thinking that, okay, well, all we have to do is love each other, and
love
we can be married.
Pay the bills, Saint.
It don't pay the bills. It don't pay the bills at all.
Oh gosh,
you can't eat love.
Yes, I love you so much, but where's these lights?
What the light?
Is the lights bill paid?
Ameren don't take love. They don't take love. They don't take love. They don't take not a half, not a piece of it, not a quarter. They don't take anything but them dollars. Yeah. All right. How are the lights gonna stay on? How is, again, we're talking about a business, right? Like, you need to have contingencies in place to where if somebody loses their income, can you stay together? Because everything good, when he making the money and she making the money and all the type of stuff, y'all good. But if they lose that job, are you good? Because part of the vows is for richer and poor. Right. So money's not an excuse. Yet, if you look on like the reasons why people file for divorce, money's at the top. It's one of the top three.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say that how to know that God approves of your marriage, I think that you will not have to compromise your beliefs and who you are. You won't have to pretend to be somebody that you're not in order to keep them.
Right.
In order to please them. You know, you can fully be who you are when you know that God is approving of your marriage and approving of who your spouse is. Because there should be peace. If you ain't got no peace, God probably don't. He probably like, red flag. Right. Nope.
All y'all trying to hold on to these toxic relationships like you can change that person.
Yeah.
If God gives them to you, the gift represents the giver.
Yeah, exactly. And God is not chaotic. He's not.
He's not the author of confusion.
Right. He is a God of peace. And so if you always fighting, you always got anxiety, you always got a question, you always got, just ain't no peace. Right. Your life has been in total and utter chaos and shambles since you got connected with this person. God probably does not approve.
Nope.
He probably does not. How else do you know that God approves of
you
your
grow
marriage?
So
yeah.
here's the again, marriage brings God at the center of the relationship. If God is nowhere near the relationship, understand you're creating a union, but you're not getting married. Okay? Now we throw that word around a whole lot in society. I understand. But if you want to go to the definition of what marriage is and what it came to be, marriage does not exist without God. He likened it to his relationship with the church, which means if he's not there, like if he's not a part of it, it does not exist. So understand, you might be asking about your quote unquote marriage, but if this definition, if the shoe fits, sis, you in a union, and you can have a union. Ain't no shame in that. You in a union, but understand, God doesn't have to approve unions. Only man does. Only man man can control and litigate and form as many unions as possible. There are people that form unions with animals, but it's not a marriage.
Yeah.
So how do you know if God approves of the marriage? He has to be a part of it first. And when he is a part of something, symptomatically it grows.
Yeah.
Like God, it is not possible for God to be a part of something and it not grow. It's impossible. If you say, hey, God gave me a gift. We just talk about gifts now. If God gave you a gift and he truly is a part of it, your gift will grow. And not only will it grow, it makes room. And how does it make room? Because it's continued to grow. So marriage is the same thing. Like, you will continue to grow and you will continue to become more of what God was pushing you towards in the first place. Like, individually God's been working on your patience. Individually God's been working on a certain devotion towards him, or a certain aspect of your life. You know that. But then through this marriage, you it's not only that you're working on it, you confront it head on, and it brings it right to your face. It's no longer working on it. Nah, it's here now. Like it's you ain't no working on. It's here, and you got to navigate it. That is a marriage that God approves of, because you're growing. You're growing in Him, and not only are you growing in Him, you know, and you see the other person growing as well. So that's one way to know that God approves of the marriage, that you're both growing. Yeah. All right. What's something you got?
So how to know God approves of your marriage? I would think that it lines up with His word.
Absolutely.
And so what comes to my mind is 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 7, which says, love is patient and kind. And this is the New Living Translation. Love is patient and kind. So if your relationship ain't patient and y'all ain't kind to each other,
it ain't Him.
It ain't Him. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It's not those things. So if it is those things, it ain't love, and it don't line up with His word. So how can He approve of something that does not line up with His word? It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance.
Everything. Yep. If your marriage does not, and I'm not in hear it, because people will twist the words. If your marriage is that, but let's say there is an infraction or an instance in which your spouse is unkind, or there's an infraction in which your spouse is jealous or something like that, that doesn't mean that God doesn't approve.
Right. Because we are still human.
Exactly.
We are still human.
So,
but if that's the nature of that person, like that's just who they are. They're just a jealous person in general. No, that's probably not.
Exactly.
That's probably not where we need to be.
Exactly. You have to know like a difference between an instance and no, this is a behavior. Yeah. This is a behavior, and this is a habit. Like, okay, this person lives in this space. Not that they visiting. No, they live
this
here.
This isn't just a one-time occurrence.
No,
this is like my address is in jealousy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to know that most likely God ain't in here.
Yeah.
God is not here because this person is bringing up and creating an environment in the relationship that God is opposed to.
Right.
So,
and if they bring that kind of stuff out of you too,
right?
You know, like if I remember being in high school. Now, of course, this was high school. We're all dumb and young in high school, right? But you know, this guy that I was dating, he was like the football star, right? Played the drums, y'all church drummers. Played the drums. I mean, he was just like
drummers are fine.
Coming from somebody who don't play the drums.
I don't.
Anyways, but like I remember though, like dating him brought out of me these unpleasant emotions. Like it brought out jealousy. It brought out being snappy. It brought out being very like self-conscious. Like who you talking to and why you talking to that person and why you did it. And it's just like, no, I'm constantly in this state of like on edge because it's just like, I mean, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like he was talking to other girls or maybe I just thought he was because he was, you know, the football star. And of course, you know, when you're in high school, everybody go for the football star, right? So it's just like, I don't know.
Not the case. I was the football star alone.
But yeah, well, you were a little nerdy though.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I was alone.
You were alone.
I was the football star. I was the only football star in the school at the time.
Oh,
and
I saw
you. No, it ain't no sorry. No, it was. I was supposed to be alone at the time, but I'm just saying, like, it does not necessarily mean that you know, he's got all the girls doing that. No, not
well,
the case.
listen, tell my high school brain that,
Not
okay?
the case.
But anyways, back to the point is that if being in that relationship brings unpleasant emotions out of you that do not reflect the Lord, then that's probably not for you. And something else that I would say too is really how to know. I mean, everything that we've shared, of course, you know, it applies. But ultimately, at the end of the day, to know if God approves of your marriage, you just need to ask Him.
Yeah,
you just need to seek the Lord, be consecrated before the Lord, and just ask Him, Lord, do you approve of this? And if you do, Father, like, send me signs and let me know that this is the right thing that I am supposed to do. And if it's not for me, God, let me know that too.
Right.
And if you let me know that this is not the person for me and this is not the marriage you want for me, then Father, help me to be obedient to your word. Because I promise you, I have seen relationships where the Lord has sent red flag after red flag after red flag. It was from God.
Don't go in that door, Miss Cindy.
Right. God was trying to save them. And they brushed it off like, oh, it's just the enemy. The enemy is attacking this. It's like, this is not the enemy, saints. This is God. God is trying to get your attention, and He's trying to tell you, listen, children, this is not for you. This is not, or like you said, maybe we are supposed to be married, but this is not the right timing for us, you know? And God will let you know if it's the right thing or if it's not the right thing, but you have to be sober-minded enough to listen and to heed what He's saying. I mean, there are so many people have ignored red flags, gone through with it, and then you crying after the fact, Lord, why? Jesus, why, Mama? Yeah, you calling us every other day. Please pray for me and my husband. Please pray, because I
ain't doing a doggone thing.
But you know what?
I told you not to do it.
Right,
I told you to wait. I told you to wait, and you didn't listen.
Who told you he was in the mental hospital yesterday?
You over there thinking that a marriage saves a relationship, and it don't.
Right.
A marriage cannot save a relationship. Y'all on rocky terms already, but you think that everything's gonna be sunshine and roses when we get married.
No. Marriage magnifies the problem.
Whatever it is that you was fighting over today, you gonna be fighting like 10 times worse tomorrow. So another thing, but I remember it was like, again, when we started dating, right? And I don't know if it was a text conversation or it was a phone conversation that we had, and I noticed that change in you. Like, you were getting snappy. You was ready to fight over something. I don't know what it was. Like, you were getting snappy. You were just ready to fight. I was like, hold up, who? This feels
a little uncomfortable.
This ain't. Well, number one, I knew it wasn't you.
Yeah.
Like, all right, you know, we've been rocking for a while now. We were friends. We were best friends. You know, even in those stages, I've seen you at every emotion, right? So I kind of know how you react. But then, like, here this comes out of nowhere. Like, what? Who is this?
Right.
Like, who's this person? Now, of course, we just started dating, so I'm thinking, like, hold up now. If this is indication of what's coming, then we can cut sling low now.
Right.
Because I like, and throughout that interaction, I was very clear, like, I don't do this.
Right.
Like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm not fighting with you. And if it comes to that, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna do that, because that's just not who I am. I can't operate like that. I can't continue to be in a relationship with somebody like that.
Right.
So if that's who you want me to be, I ain't gonna be that person. I'm not gonna be the person to fight. If you need somebody to fight, go find somebody to fight.
Yeah.
But that ain't me.
Yeah. And you know what? I remember that. I don't remember that specific incident, but I do remember feeling like, you know what? He's different. He is not like these other dudes that I have talked to where I have to be snappy or I have to fight or I have to have to be on edge all the time. And I mean, honestly, like, that was just like past trauma that hadn't been dealt with, that hadn't been addressed.
Yeah.
It just, it's just what I had did in past relationships. And so I think that, you'll know if this is a good person or a right person if they're willing to change for the better,
right,
for the relationship. I'm not saying just people just changing just to change,
right,
but change for the better. Like, I knew that my actions were hurting him.
right.
I knew that my actions were unhealthy. I recognized they were unhealthy, but I wasn't about to double down and be like, well, you just need to accept me for who I am. This is who I am in relationships. And you about to find yourself single. But it's just like, if this person brings to your attention, which, that's kind of what we talked about a couple episodes ago, like personality, conflicts. Like, if they bring to your attention something that hurts them, something that makes them uncomfortable or whatever, listen and be willing to change for the better and for the longevity of your relationship. And I think that shows somebody who God approves of and who God sends, and will ultimately make a healthy marriage, because you're willing to say, I'm willing to crucify my flesh.
Exactly.
Right? I'm willing to die to myself in order to bring back to life a person who is healthy enough to love you correctly.
And that person, if they are sent from God, will never ask you to change to make you further away from God.
Right.
Like,
they won't ask you to compromise.
They won't ask you to compromise who you are.
Right.
They're more than likely, the change will probably be more of who God wants you to be.
Right. Right.
I want you to be more of who God wants you to be, rather than this, or what I'm noticing, what I'm observing now. Right. And they can probably see what it is that God has for you, like in the future, and they want the best for you. They want you to achieve your best self too.
Right.
So in that aspect, like, if God approves of your marriage, if your spouse wants the best for you without condition.
You know what? This is probably another episode, like how to know that you're like with your purpose partner. I know that's kind of like a buzzword, like purpose partner.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of where we're shifting to, is like, how do you know that this person is the right person?
Well, I started with purpose. I started with purpose because like you cannot separate marriage from purpose.
Right.
Because
marriage should further the purpose.
Should, right. Like God gave Adam purpose before Eve.
Right.
And Eve was to aid in the purpose. So like, you can't separate the two. And if you do separate the two, you might run the risk of picking up the wrong person at the gas station. and circle back, right? It's like you're gonna pick up the wrong person, and then you're gonna wonder why, like, who is this person in my car? Like, like, why is this person here? So then you get mad. You say, "Oh, well, I got to do a divorce because," and you're experiencing something that God never wanted for you.
Right.
And that's the tragedy of it, right? There's a lot of people that are carrying around bags that God didn't want you to carry around, never wanted you to carry around, but you got to carry them around now because of something that you did.
Right, because it's something that you did.
It's something that you did. It's not something that God wanted for you. Yeah. God had the right person in mind for you if you would have just waited.
Right, and that's the thing too. It's like, God, I pray you approve of my marriage. After you done already married the person, and now you want him to come and save the day.
You want to reference me at the end, but not acknowledge me at the beginning.
Right. If you would acknowledge the Lord every step of the way, from the time you first sent the text message to the time you had a phone call to the time you dated. I mean, if you acknowledge the Lord every step of the way, of course he's going to approve of your marriage.
Right.
Because he's been involved every step of the way. Why would he not approve it?
Right.
If he's been involved.
Exactly.
Like he's not going to lead you astray if you involve him.
If you involve him, right.
Right. He's not going to lie to you if you involve him.
Yep.
But what happens is, I think that, people get so caught up in one age, right? I'm getting old. I need to go find me somebody, that trying to keep up with the Joneses. They look good on their Instagram. they look cute on their little TikTok, you know, and it's just like you're willing to look past, you know, all these different red flags or whatever, just because you so desperate to be married. They look good, whatever.
It is better. It is better. I guarantee you. I understand the loneliness.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
I understand the loneliness, and I understand because we're wired to want connection.
Right.
I understand right.
We are wired for
right.
Most definitely.
We get it.
Yeah.
But understand, as attuned as you are to connection, it is so detrimental to your state of mind and state of being when you get the wrong connection.
Yeah.
And not only do you get the wrong connection in a relationship, but you double down on it in a marriage.
Right.
So, like, you don't have an off ramp. There is no off ramp for you. You have doubled down on it, and then you have to not only deal with the just the intricacies, the lack of being together, unequally yoked, and you have to deal with, again, if those are the fruits of the spirit, if those are the fruits of what a healthy is, you got to deal with all of the fruits that's not healthy.
Right.
So you got to deal with the jealousy. You got to deal with the unkindness. You got to deal with the anxiety and the chaos.
Pride, the boastfulness.
And you got to deal with all that type of stuff. And then that's just in the marriage. Now let's look outside the marriage, because you stood before a crowd of witnesses and God and said that you were going to take this person in sickness and health, rich or poor, till death.
We done paid all this money for these dresses and these flowers.
We came to see you get married, and you have to deal with your own ego and say, well, I don't want to end the relationship because I'm scared of how that makes me look to everybody else.
Right. Listen, I'm gonna just be honest with you right now. We knew it was a mistake. We tried to told you.
I told you at the hotel. You didn't listen to me.
So listen. So at the end of the day, baby, we not batting an eye if you be like, you know what, this didn't work.
Oh, okay.
We know. Right. We know, Saints.
We know. Right.
No.
And we always gonna say, we tried to told you, but let's go bowling. Like, it's not like it doesn't, like, people think that it is the world's end if they are caught in a position to where it's like, hey, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
But if there are godly people around you, they understand that you're making a mistake anyway. And they trying to tell you. They're trying to tell you. But it's your own ego and pride that aren't listening, because you desire connection, and this is something that you want. But as we said before, something that you create, you are responsible to sustain.
Yes.
And and if you think that sustaining a marriage is hard, it's hard with God.
Yes.
With God is hard.
With God it is hard. So without God, baby,
good luck.
Woo-hoo.
Good luck. I would never. You couldn't pay me enough money to be married to somebody
without the help of the Lord. Oh,
you tripping.
Yeah.
You tripping. Yeah. She can be fine as wine. She could have a body like a Coke bottle. She could do everything. She could be coming to America, whatever you like, all that. Like, if God ain't in it,
right,
it's going to be hell for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be hell for you.
Right. Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. Do we hit the 30 minutes, or we?
Yeah, we had 34.
34.
34. So please let us know how this 30 to 40 minute little mark is going. As far as time goes for podcasts, because we just trying to experiment, just see what works best for engagement and for our audience. So yeah, did you have anything else you want to add to today's topic, or to this episode's topic?
The question of, how do you know if God approves of the relationship?
Yeah.
I think
of your marriage.
Of your marriage. I think my wife said it best. Ask him.
Ask him. Just ask him.
Ask him. And be okay with the answer he gives.
Right. Because it may be no.
Yeah.
And you got to be
no,
okay with
and
that.
And if it's no, like, I'd be humble enough to say, okay, like, now I understand divorce is a bit of a humble pie, right? But what God says, if you ask him, he says no. Like, why are you in the relationship if he doesn't get glory out of it?
Yeah. But you know what? And we are not telling people to get a divorce.
No,
I just want to say that.
No.
We are not
it's not
telling people to get a divorce.
Nope.
We are not saying that, because I personally know people who got married who were unequally yoked, who I do know, just based off of the fruit of their marriage, none of their fruit reflected the Lord in any kind of way. But the Lord was gracious enough to sustain and carry his children through, that experience. Because at the end of the day, it is still a vow and a covenant before the Lord and to the Lord. And so even though one party did their best to honor the Lord and honor their spouse and honor their commitment, and the other person did not, they stayed married because of just the covenant or whatever. And so I will say that too, like, even if you're asking this question and it's too late and you've already gotten married, the Lord is faithful enough to sustain you, and he is faithful enough to change the other person. Now, that change, you can't do it. It has to be a change that the Lord provides, and there's no telling when that change will come. Nope. It could come tomorrow. It could come 5 years from now. It could come 50 years from now. You just never know just how the Lord is going to work it. So that's why we say, even before you get married, ask him and be sober-minded enough to listen for the answer and accept it and be obedient and follow what the will of the Lord is. So yeah, we're not telling y'all to get divorced. No. We are not saying that.
Don't go to your little friend groups talking about Lee and Sariah said y'all need to get a divorce.
No,
that is not what we said.
Saying that. But I will say though that if you find yourself in an abusive relationship and you find yourself, it's a horrible situation, I say get out.
Separate.
Like I am not.
The Bible says for safety, for safety reasons, if it's an abusive relationship, for the safety not just physically but emotionally and spiritually, separate. Which means don't go near that person. Don't if you are the person that is the victim in this relationship, separate. Like, go your separate ways. Don't go to the house. Don't go to the job. Don't go to the church. Don't go near that person. Mm-hmm. Separation. That's what the Bible prescribes for people that are married and you're dealing with abuse.
Because you cannot tell me that God approves of abuse.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
No.
He doesn't.
What? No.
And it's usually the abusers that'll use God to affirm their actions or validate or something like that. Right. Some type of crazy. But
yeah, some type of crazy.
Some type of crazy. But I'm just saying, like, if that's you and you're that person, separate. That is what we are saying. Okay. Right. We're not saying we didn't tell anybody to get divorced. No. But if you fall under this category, we are telling you to separate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You need to get away.
Right, for your safety.
And then this is personal for me because I just had a cousin. I just had a cousin in a domestic violence situation.
Yes.
And like you think that, oh well, it's not that bad or anything, like he won't do anything like that. Oh, he's just this, he's just that. Like, things escalate faster than you think.
Right.
Things escalate faster than you think. Right. If there's even a seed of it, separate.
Yes.
Separate. Yes. Like, you don't need to be with that person. Like, and we lost her.
Right.
The family lost her. Just because there was no wherewithal, like while this was going on, and there no seeds was all there, she did not separate herself. And again, you can't blame the victim in this, because again, she's just as much a victim. But for those who do have the faculty, if you're still able to do something, go. Like, I beg of you, go. Don't go through what my family went through. Like, we will all understand. I understand. We get it. Go. Nobody will blame you. Nobody will think twice about it. Like, we all understand. Go. That's what I would say.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and sign off of here. So thank you guys so much for joining us today in this episode. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.